What's up, everyone? It's Esther and Zoe here, and welcome to Vision and Alchemy. Whether you're new to the path of self-discovery or you've been on this journey for a while, Esther and I are here to support and inspire you every step of the way. Buckle up, my friends, because we're about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Vision and Alchemy starts now. And welcome back to the Vision and Alchemy podcast. This is Zoe and Esther, and we are here with episode 9. Yay! I just realized we actually haven't even settled on a name yet, but we kind of just like a name for the podcast episode, which isn't super important. But Esther and I just always love getting on here and kind of just seeing where the conversation flows. So we might actually start with a topic and end up in a completely different place. But usually at this point in the episode, I'm saying the name and we don't have one yet. So YOLO.
It'll come.
I just said YOLO on a podcast. Great. Oh my God. It's just like, you know, the start of an episode, you're like, how do I talk? How do I function? And then by the end, I'm like, how do I shut up? Like,
yes. Oh my God. Such a ramp up.
Yeah. So excuse all the nervous little just like filling the air with noise guys at the start. We're just getting back in the saddle. So we thought we would start this episode with a little bit of a life update. I know it's always good to get straight into the content, but this particular update we want to give you kind of flows on with the topic that we have in mind. So some wonderful, amazing, incredible stuff has happened to Esther in literally the last 48 hours. It's a very incredible example of how fast the universe works when you're in alignment, when you trust yourself and you put yourself out there. And yeah, it's just an incredible story to share. So we'll start with that one and then we can kind of lean into the topic. So over to you, my love.
Oh my God, you're so good at introing things and making everything make sense.
What does it all mean?
What a queen.
What does anything mean?
Oh, it's incredible. So, the last 48 hours. Okay, so we'll fast forward by like, half a week or something. But I posted a video on TikTok just about how I am raising my 15-year-old son, Noah. And the topic on the video was how I don't want him to get a job just for money yet while he's so young. And that has caused like quite a tizzy online. So there's been, the comment section was just absolutely popping off. People are arguing with each other. People completely disagree with me. Others completely agree. So next thing you know, it goes viral and it's sitting now at about like 1.3 million views or something like that. And
is there even that many people in the world? Actually, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's crazy though.
It is.
I went on and checked it before and I'm like, it just like, what?
I know.
Yeah.
Because it's just no normal to me. Like to raise Noah like this is so normal. I had no idea that like it was controversial. I don't even know why I posted the video. Like literally I was just minding my own business, probably just working. And then all of a sudden was like, I feel like recording a video on this. Like, because sometimes I'll just be thinking about something and next thing you know, I just feel like it has to come out of my mouth. And I got it. So then, I had my birthday on the weekend, just minding my own business, having a nice time. And one of my girlfriends got home and she called me and she was like, have you seen? And I was like, what? And she was like, I just spoke to my mom and my nephew, but you were on the news. And I was like, what do you mean? Where? And she was like, you were on BBC on the TV. And I was like, what? And her mum said that they framed it as in like local Queensland woman wages a war on parenting or something like that.
Oh my God, calm down.
I know. Dramatic.
Yeah.
And then so then she was like, I've got to find something about it online. And she couldn't find anything from that. But then she found someone had written an article about it and she sent that to me. And the tagline of the article was just like a direct quote from the video, which said something along the lines of like something that I had said, which was, we don't even get to die young anymore. And he's going to live for like 1,000,000 years. I don't want him to start work so young or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, pissing myself. And next thing you know, I like a couple of hours later, so I'm just like painting a picture, like laughing about all this, just being like, what's going on? And then I get an email. Someone had contacted me through my TikTok and it was Channel 5 in the UK. They asked me to come on a talk show because they had designed an entire segment based on my TikTok video. So I did that last night. So that was literally like, they emailed me and they were like, tomorrow this is happening. Do you want to be on it? Blah, blah, blah. And I had to, it was live. And I had to talk to callers who rang up to disagree with me.
Yeah, basically, there was no one that was like,
Obviously.
"Good job, girl!" Like,
Oh, like the hosts were beautiful. So there was like a
Mm.
host, she was amazing. There was another like one of the girl panelists, she was amazing, and then there was this guy panelist, and his whole job was to be like, you know, contrarian and disagree or
yeah,
whatever. And he was like,
antagonist, is that the word?
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And he'd been like working since he was 11, and he, you know, I was like, fucking same, bro. Doesn't mean you
Yeah,
have to keep doing
calm
it.
down. Yeah.
So anyway, that was very interesting. I was so nervous, but like as soon as, you know, I got the email and the invitation to do it, I like replied and was like, well, yeah, obviously I have to do this, because I just recognized it straight away as the universe being like, hey babe, like here it is. We're ready to go. Like, you want to change the world? You want to make the world a better place to live? You're already actively doing it with your own child, which I didn't even fucking realize, by the way. I'm like, I want to change the world. How can I do it? And I was
Yeah.
like, didn't even clock to me that I was like raising my kid for like this new world that we got to bring in, and like already actively doing that. So I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. So yeah, I saw it as this aligned step, and I was like, I'm just going to take that step. So I took the step, did the show last night.
Oh, did you mention did you want to mention what the actual topic of the conversation of the TikTok was, like about Noah?
Yeah.
Did we mention that?
I think so.
Oh.
I think so. But it was just basically like, I don't want him to work so young just for money. I'm happy for him to go out and get work experience and do something that he actually wants to do, something that he's passionate about or super interested in. And I know that you can't always just go get a job like when you're, you know, young with no experience that you super love and actually get paid for it. So I'm like, I'll fund your existence. You don't have to go get paid. You can just go do work experience. You can do something, but do something that you love. Like, the key point here is that I'm trying to teach him to lead with his heart, trust his body, his instincts, like what he wants to do, you know, be creative, use your imagination. Like, I don't want to box him in. And the way of the world is usually just like, oh, you know, you have to prepare. So prepare him for the hard, you know, workforce by sending him in nice and early. Prepare him for, you know, a lifetime of hard work, because it's not always easy, by doing it to suit the young. But I'm like, that's just so shit, because if we keep in that mentality of preparing to have this like really hard, yucky life just full of work, where we prioritize working over happiness and we value ourselves based on how hard we can work and everything, like if we keep preparing young people for that, we're just perpetuating that current existence. Whereas if we start raising younger people with the idea of like, oh, let's actually do something that we enjoy or find joy in the thing we do, like, you know, think about a vocation, think about, I don't know, just use your imagination more. Don't be afraid to say yes to things. Don't be afraid to think outside the box, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think
Just
there's
supporting like his individuality, basically. You were like,
yeah,
you don't have to go and be a cog in the machine just for the sake of money. I can support you as a mother for a little bit longer and figure out who Noah is a little bit longer. You know, we're doing that our whole life, but like, I really think you're just supporting his individuality.
100%. Because how many times do you hear of a situation where someone's like just taking the steps, doing the thing that they're set out to do in their life, you know, they get a job when they're young, and then they're also going to school, and then they either finish school or they drop out of school because they can't manage all of it at once. And they, you know, are so tired, and they don't have time to figure out who they are when they're young. They don't have time to try all these different things. And then they go into the world with this like uni degree they don't want anymore. They've got some career that they've been in for like 5 years. They're too afraid to leave because they've never tried more than that one thing. And they hate themselves, or they don't like what they're doing. And they get to like their 30s and go, oh my God, I need to change my entire life, which is fine. And that's a liberating thing. And like, same, that's what I did. But it's like, what if we did it slightly differently and we actually raise kids to try a bunch of different shit when they're young, try all these different things out, like, you know, have a bunch of hobbies, try something you don't like anymore, that's fine, try a new thing, like that's all good, don't be scared, you don't have to stay in it forever. Because like I hear a lot of parents being like, no, I've put you in football, you're going to stay in football. And if the kid hates football, he just has to stay in football because he started football. So like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Let them try a bunch of different stuff. That's how they can figure out who they are a lot younger. And then they can go into life, you know, with less fear, for one, a lot more confidence, and maybe a little bit more direction about what they want to do. And if they end up doing something and they don't like it anymore, they'll probably be more likely to change it sooner and keep figuring out who they are as they go. So that was the general point of the video, which it has sparked a really big conversation with people.
Yeah, I didn't know parenting was such an opinionated topic.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I know.
Okay. I was like, oh my God.
Are you fucking serious?
I was like, I'm like,
Really? I'm opinionated and I've got a dog and I consider myself a mum. Or like, I don't even have a human child yet. And I'm like, I know how to parent. Everyone shut up and I'm going to tell you how to parent. So yeah, like I never would have picked it for you either as being one of the first and many for sure ways that you're going to change the world or start a really important conversation. But yeah, like parenting.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I'm a fucking great parent. My kid's
You
amazing. It makes total
are.
sense. It just didn't click that this would be one of the things.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I wasn't doing it for anything other than to raise him right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why it was just so normal for me. It didn't click. And then I was like, oh, I can use this to help make the world better because I have a living example of it working out well.
Yes, exactly. So
yeah.
And I was just thinking as you were talking about it, like you were saying, like you just want him to have time to figure out who he is and stuff like that. It reminded me of the conversation about nature versus nurture. And it's like, I just feel like the way that you're intuitively nurturing Noah is supporting him to understand his nature.
That's
It's
so
like,
beautiful.
it's not one versus the other. Do you know that conversation? It's like, it's nature versus nurture. And I thought about it when you were like, someone's like, you're playing soccer because I played soccer as a kid. That's nurturing, like as a parent, but like aggressive nurturing. But I feel like you've actually blended and balanced the nature and nurture well enough to just nurture him to unlock his own nature, which is going to make him an incredibly powerful kid, which I know Noah very well. And he's a very intelligent, grounded, emotionally, resilient kid. And he's
That is such a good point. Also, thank you
Yeah.
for saying all that. Oh my God, he is. That's beautiful. But the nature versus nurture thing, it doesn't need to be a versus. I love that.
It's a marrying, and you didn't even realize you're doing. I didn't even realize you're doing it until like this conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, that's the only conversation you were trying to open is like, I just want to parent this kid in a way that he can feel like he has some, not control. Control's a negative word, but some kind of sense of empowerment and choice in his life.
Yeah. And that's the thing, actually, from when as soon as he was old enough to comprehend this, I used to say to him, if I'm ever parenting you in a way that doesn't suit you, I want your feedback. Exactly. Like I literally brought him up to do that, and he has. And I've said the same to him, and I've been like, hey, like, because this is a two-way street and we're both just figuring it out as we go. Like, I don't know everything. And I need you to know that from as young as possible that I'm going to make mistakes and we're working this out together. Mm-hmm. I'm not just like some be all and end all, like end of the road fucking knowledge master. Like I am working out how to parent and you're working out how to grow up, and we're just figuring it out as we go so we can give each other feedback. And so I was like, sometimes maybe if I need to tell you to do something a bit differently, I want you to take that on. And if you need to tell me to, I don't know, be more present or stop, getting up your ass about cleaning your room because you want to get yourself up your own ass about it, whatever the thing is, I was like, I want your feedback. And he actually gives me the feedback. Like sometimes he's like, hey, so sometimes you tell me to do something and it makes me not want to do it. And I just really want you to just give me the opportunity a little bit longer to realize that I need to do the thing. So then I can tell myself to do it, because he's like, I don't know why I feel that way. It's just like, I want to try that. And I was like, yeah, totally, bro. Yes, that's so cool.
Yes, exactly. I'll never forget the time you told me that he was like, hey, Mom, you're kind of being a bit sassy. And then you were like, oh, what the hell? And you're like, oh yeah, shit. Sorry, I'm due for my period. You're like, thanks for that. I'm just going to go eat some food and like ground. Like he doesn't say it in a disrespectful way at all. He's just like, Mum, can you just like check yourself before you wreck yourself? Like, and you've given him the space and the choice to develop that sense of emotional like intelligence and be like, Mom's a bit off. I think she's just like cranky and hungry and about to get her period.
Yeah, legit.
So it's really beautiful.
On the choice thing again as well, I always say to him, because like now he's at the age where I can just say like make the right choice or whatever. But when he was younger, I would give him a choice. I'd be like, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Because kids never want to feel like they have no option. Like that's incredibly restrictive for them. So if you give them choices, they can, not heaps of choices, but like just one or two choices, let them pick. And then when they're old enough, you can be like, it's important that you make like good choices for yourself. But I always explain to him, like, sometimes you'll make a choice and you'll regret it, but that's fine. You're going to learn a lesson from it and that's all good.
Yeah.
And other times, you'll make a choice and you'll be really happy with what you've chosen. And so now whenever he's like, oh, I'm thinking about this and blah, 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 and we're talking about a scenario and he's wanting advice on it, I'm like, well, what do you think would be the best choice to make? And then he's in that position of discussing with me what he thinks is the best choice. And that's getting his mindset in the place of looking for choices that are good for him, which takes control of your life. Like he won't be in a position where life is happening to him if he always knows that he's making his own choices.
Mm. And as you were sharing this story, I realized as well, like, it's so important to be parenting in this way because when your kid goes to school and like and gets into other institutions, like when you were speaking that story, I had this memory of when I was in high school and we were 14, so Noah's age, and we were in, I think that's grade 9, and they were like, hey guys, you need to choose your electives for the rest of the year, the rest of the year, the rest of like your, grade 10, 11, 12. And then this is going to influence what uni degrees and stuff you get into. And I remember sitting there like, what do you mean I'm meant to know what I want to be when I grow up? Like, what the fuck? And thankfully have a mum similar to you. She was just like, well, just use your discernment. What do you want to do? Don't worry about what 18-year-old Zoe needs to study if she goes to uni. Like, what do you want to do? And I chose German, drama, and home ec. And the German that I did actually took me on like the most life-changing student exchange program. I went to Germany overseas by myself for the first time without my family over to Europe, like fully character building. So it was just like a little side note, a little like pat on the back for me.
That is so cool.
Yeah, but I just love that mum gave me that freedom to do those electives. And I'm mentioning these 3 electives because, as I've mentioned in our first episode, I went on and spent my 20s studying at university and did 2 science degrees. And I absolutely smashed both of those without any bridging courses or doing, biology in high school. And I remember I got a letter written to mum and she said I must have done well in one of the sciences. And they were like, oh, she's got good grades, she should study this. But I was like, dude, I'm 14. I don't give a shit about cells and DNA and whatever right now. And I still just chose those electives, went and did that. And by no means did that affect what I did at uni or how I got into it. And obviously like the first little bit, like the first few lectures of chemistry, I'm like, holy shit. But imagine me as a 14-year-old trying to understand that lecture. Like I was 18, 19, 20 or however old I was. And I was like, I'm a grown-ass woman and I've chosen to do this degree because I'm passionate about physio. So now I want to pay attention to chemistry. But can you imagine trying to push me as a 14-year-old to sit down and do chemistry in case I maybe did a science degree 5 years later?
It's fucked up.
So I didn't even, like, I'd fully forgotten about that. But that's why it's so important as a parent to like create these safe spaces and conversations with people, because you'll go into, in your education facility, establishment, whatever, and it's kind of shoved down your throat. Like, you don't know what you want to do with the rest of your entire life. Are you crazy? And I'm there like, oh yeah, what's wrong with me? But there was nothing wrong with me. It's society. And
That's
as
exactly
I mentioned,
it.
and as I mentioned in those episodes, like, I've jumped careers so many times and I don't regret it for 1 second, because I took those decisions as like, okay, this doesn't really fill up my cup anymore, as an indication that I was evolving as a person. And I'm like, I'm okay to walk away from this because I'm different now and I want to focus on different things. And that's what you're enabling Noah to discern, because you're giving him that free will at a young age. And he can, like you said, he can walk away from a job or a career or a hobby or a partnership or whatever with more confidence because he's been given the opportunity to develop his free will at a younger age.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Because what you were saying about like how they expect you to choose something in high school so early, that just, like you said, makes you feel like, oh, am I the only one who feels like confused by this? Am I the only one who feels like stifled and scared by this? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's like, oh, maybe everyone else is totally chill with this and they all know what they're going to do, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And it gives you this sense of separation from everyone. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you or something. And then, but like the reality is that everyone feels that way, because it's absolutely insane to expect someone so young to know what they're going to do. And it's like, what have we been doing for all this time? It's crazy. But in saying that, it's not to say that how we've done it so far is wrong or whatever. It's just, it's time to move past it and advance as a society. So it's like, it got us this far, but now we're at a point where it's like, okay, everyone's pretty depressed largely. Like when you think about most of the people in the world, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of unhappiness, and people are moving into a space where they're like, hey, I'm actually learning that there's a lot more to being alive than I realized. And that's a beautiful
paycheck
shift.
to paycheck. Yeah. Exactly. So you're just doing that one person at a time. Well, one with Noah, and then you got flung onto an international platform. So you went from one to millions. But, life works in funny ways, hey? So, yeah, it's so funny to think we used to be nervous about doing this podcast, and then you just like go and do. a live interview debate in like a country where their values aren't super familiar to you, like as well, you know, like we're Australian, so we have different, like a different value system. So, I'm just so proud of you. And I watched, like, they had a little snippet on Facebook, and Esther just spoke so eloquently. She was so graceful. And, you know, it wasn't even really a discussion. It was straight into a debate. And to have people in real time be like, no, you're wrong. You suck. You're raising your kid wrong. And you just be like, you know, just smiling through it and being like, I disagree. And it was absolutely incredible to watch. So we're so proud of her. And you just did so well, and you've always been doing so well at raising Noah, but I just hope you've inspired some other parents to maybe, like you said, just broaden that lens of how we can nurture the younger generation.
Totally. It's not about, like, we don't need to just say no one. Like, obviously we need to work, we need to get life experience and stuff like that, but you can get it in so many different ways. Like there's all kinds of, like, he goes to scouts, he does all kinds of hobbies, and, you know, he's doing like a mechanic thing right now with his dad, and like he still goes to school. So he's not like getting a job for money. He's following his interests. And so when, you know, you nurture your kids' interests and who they are as a person, they'll find out who they are so much earlier. It's just going to make for such a better world. Oh my God, the trickle-on effects of that. But
it's incredible.
Basically, the whole point of telling you guys that entire story was that we wanted to really discuss, like, moving into a place of alignment and following your gut and your happiness and your bliss, and kind of really just trusting that you're going to end up where you need to go. And sometimes that looks different to what you expect. So lately, all these things that are happening in my life, I would never have expected it. I always knew I would do big things, and the things that I've always felt that I would do, to be honest, are even bigger than what's happening right now. So I feel like this is just the beginning, but I never knew what it would look like. I had absolutely not a clue that this would be happening. And I think I'm at this place because I decided to just let go of trying to control the destination. And what I did instead was call in a feeling. And I've been calling in, like, I want to change the world to be a better place. I want to help everyone. I want to live with balance, and I want to do things that I'm interested in and passionate about. And I want to feel very fulfilled. I want to feel restful. I want to have a full cup. I want to laugh. I want to play. I want to do all these things. And I'm calling in that feeling all the time. So the more I do that, the more I just take one step at a time, listen out for the guidance from the universe, and, you know, an opportunity will drop into my lap or something, and I just say yes if it feels right. And now I am in this place, and I'm like, where the hell am I going? I don't know, but I'm keen to find out.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part about co-creating with the universe, is like you only get one breadcrumb at a time, and it's just like being in that state of alignment and trust in the meantime, and what can happen over 2 days. It's like incredible. And it's not, obviously, like, it's not sustainable to have this trajectory forever, but you're just riding the wave, and then you're like, you know, get another little breadcrumb, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you said you're chasing a feeling now, I had this moment with my beautiful dog Clifford at the beach the other day. And as we all know, like, you take your dog to the beach and they love their stick or their toy or whatever little or if you take them to the park, etc. But just that pure stoke and froth that a dog exhibits, I was observing that in my dog, and I was like, oh my God, he like loves his stick. Like, he is a dog with a bone at the moment, sort of thing. Like, he is obsessed with this. He's just lit up, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to explain how a dog's happy.
It's making me really happy, like, listening to you. I'm like, can't stop smiling because I just love hearing about happy dogs.
Oh, we do not deserve dogs. Holy shit. Like, I feel like they're like our little spiritual teachers. Hey,
They are.
I'm always just like observing Cliff, and I'm like, whoa. Like, I understand life now, you know, like, more. And in this particular example, he's frothing out on his stick, just being a big dickhead. And I was like, it made me reflect. I was like, oh, okay, well, what's my stick? Like, what's my bone? Like, you know, what's the thing that I'm obsessed with in this life? Because I just feel like so many of us are walking around not even experiencing anywhere near the level of stoke that a dog experiences. And we haven't been put on this earth to not experience that, like that joy, that euphoria, that fulfillment, that adventurous, that playfulness. And I was just reflecting on like what that was for me. And then I felt like, and this is kind of, and now like Esther's had her experience as well, but I really want this podcast to be this episode to be an invitation for everyone to start thinking about, like, what's that thing? Like, what's that, like that little spark that Esther had of like, I'm feeling really inspired today. I might share this with the world and chuck it on TikTok. And now it's 1.3 million views later. And it's not about the success of it or the response or monetizing it, but it's just like, you need to take a moment to have like a little bit of a review of your life through a self-compassionate lens. Don't be hard on yourself, but where are you not giving yourself permission to run for that stick on the beach, like your version of that stick on the beach, you know?
Mhm.
And there's so much work involved with that, like in a good way. You don't just like run towards it, but like we want this conversation, hopefully Esther and I sharing our experiences and how we feel about it, to invite you guys to be like, okay, cool. Well, I really love trees. Like, how do I spend more time in trees? And then like helping you kind of get an actionable step. Or, you know, you might be fully along in your journey and you're feeling so like, yes, I love everything. And this episode is just a chance for you to express some gratitude and celebrate how far you've come.
Hell
Or
yeah.
you might be sitting at your desk in your 9 to 5, like, my soul is dying on the inside and I need to get out of this. And hopefully this episode will give you that permission to start taking those steps towards getting that stoke, that dog at the beach stoke.
Yeah. You are so good at speaking. Hey, I was just listening to everything you were saying and I was like, hell yeah, like she's just dropping so many bombs. Like this is amazing. But then also just the structure that you can uphold while you're speaking. It's incredible. I will never stop being like amazed.
Oh, thank you. Well, I feel like we're a good team because then you talk and I'm like, oh, I'm like having all these fat piffs, like, fuck, oh, that's, oh my God, like realizing all these things. So I think we're just a very great team. And I think
We are.
we're hanging with us.
I love you.
I love you too so much. So yeah, that's just what we wanted to invite. And unless you want to say anything, Esther, I might just give like a little rundown of kind of like how I've gotten to this point of like
Yeah, you
inviting
go.
a bit more in my life. But yeah, I just
Go,
feel like
go.
I spoke for a few minutes. So I was like, I should give you
Keep
a little
going, baby girl.
opportunity. Yeah. Maybe we should have like little flags or something when you're like, stop talking, my turn. Yeah.
Fuck,
You've
that's
actually
so
put your
funny.
hand up a few times. You're like, can I fucking get a word in?
Oh,
See, guys, we've passed this point in the episode where we're not nervous anymore. We don't need to fill the room with noises, and now I can't shut up. So no. So basically, I just wanted to share, like, I can't remember exactly, but I just remember the moment I was like, realized when I felt the most sense of purpose and fulfillment, and I felt like physically energized in my body and excited and just like I was making a difference in the world. And it was in a way that you wouldn't really expect, because I think like if, you know, you're still really heavily conditioned by society, we're automatically like, well, how do I make a career out of that? Or how do I monetize that? Or that's a waste of time. Like we're very programmed to always think of a result, but it's like, just enjoy the process. Like Esther said, follow that feeling. And I realized I was like, that feeling where I feel like most fulfillment, etc., was just when a friend, any friend of mine, would feel relaxed enough and trust me enough to open up and be vulnerable and be like, listen, Zoz, I'm having a fucking time, eh? And sit there and I'd be like, wow, like I'm so grateful. And not in a way that they're just like not constantly complaining. This is like a deep, vulnerable moment of like, I don't know what to do. Like, and it was just like people kind of magnetized towards me and noticed me as a safe space, like no judgment, just like, yeah, be yourself, be compassionate towards yourself as you're telling me what's going on, etc. And friends would be talking about a breakup or a job they didn't like, or, you know, a struggle that they're going through. And the fact that someone felt comfortable with me, to trust me to, one, open up and receive that, all of that vulnerability, and then two, kind of pause and look back at me like, well, like, what do you think? Or what do I do? And I'm kind of like looking behind me like, oh, me? Like, you want my advice? And then like, obviously over time, like I've gotten more confidence. I'm just here like riffing on the podcast like you. But I just remember I just wanted to share that little moment, that first moment of me being like, and I'd, you know, help a friend out like, oh, you know, dump his ass or whatever. No, like we'd talk about the problem and they'd be like, oh, thanks, Oz. All right, I'm going home. Or like we'd end the phone call. And I would just be brimming with that same level of stoke that my dog gets at the beach. And I was like, they trusted me and they not agreed with my opinion, but they valued what I had to say. And obviously I would always be encouraging them to have discernment, be like, but, you know, view this through your lens, but I think I'm seeing X, Y, and Z for you. And I was literally just so stoked by someone wanting my advice in life. So that was the start of everything, like years ago. And then I was like, okay, well, how can I help myself more and how can I help other people more? And it's slowly like, like I said, I can't tell you every step and it's boring anyway. But, then I got into mindset development and got my own mentor and learned, the ins and outs of the subconscious mind and emotional intelligence and nervous system regulation and everything. And over time, I would give better and better advice and people would be like, oh, wow. And I just slowly became that person in a friend group. Everyone's like, Zoz, what do you think? Sort of thing. And it's slowly manifested into my whole business and vision and alchemy and everything. And if it wasn't for me slowing down to be like, at the end of those conversations, that's actually when I feel most like myself, when I feel like I'm well expressed, like self-expression. My heart feels full. I've been of service to people and I've made a difference and everything. And I was like, and literally, I remember I would say to Esther way before this podcast, I was like, how do I just be like a professional friend? I just want to be a professional friend because I'm just really good at being a friend,
You really are.
And there's so many layers to this, guys. Like, I'm not a friend that someone can just come and like dump all their shit on and walk away from. Like, I've done all of my self-work, well, it's an ongoing process, but I'm doing that work so that I'm very selective with my energy. I'm not just there letting everyone walk all over me and dump their problems. I've set my boundaries. I know how to fill up my cup. I know how to regulate my energy and everything. So it's not just like I was like, hey, I'm just going to become fake friends with everyone and let them dump their problems on me so I feel something and I feel important. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many layers to me just following that little feeling of stoke. I wasn't just like, okay, so I'm just going to become a doormat friend and not let everyone talk to me. But just that pure feeling of like, I'm alive. Like, I feel alive because I get to help these people and people care about the way that I view the world and the wisdom that I have to share. And it helps me as well. Like, I am so obsessed with how I interact with life. So it is constantly helping me. And the more that I fill up my cup and help me, it overflows and I can help other people. And now that over the years, that has slowly manifested into me and my best friend Esther sitting here doing this podcast, changing the world, and then also with my Oasis State work, etc. So I just wanted to share my humble beginnings because I'm like, you guys might already know what your like stick at the beach moment is, like what dog with a bone thing of like, I am obsessed with this. I feel most alive when I'm doing this because it'll come to you in ways where like, I was like, oh, it's like just a weird personal thing that came to me. And then I've slowly monetized it. And it's not about monetizing it, but I followed my bliss is the whole point of that story. I followed that bliss. I followed that zone of genius. And I was like, now it's turned into my purpose. And I still earn income in other ways, but that's the journey that I'm on of constantly coming back to alignment and then more and more clients pop up into my DM like, hey, I want to buy a package with you. I want to work with you, this sort of thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm supporting myself with that thing that I'm so stoked about. And eventually, like, not eventually, it's like freaking soon, like Esther said, we've got big plans and it's going to happen because we are master manifestors and we are freaking doing the work and the universe responds. So
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to share my little humble beginnings and I just followed that little feeling. It wasn't little, it was a huge feeling, but like, take some time now. Like, what is that feeling? It could be the most random thing, but if it is what lights you up, it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else.
I love that so much. That's it. It's got to be just for you. Something that's not for anyone else, something that you love.
Yeah.
And also on all that, you are just so good to talk to. Like, you are an amazing friend and you do always have the most amazing advice and you hold space so well. And you also have a phenomenal memory. So it's like you're able to keep like a line of like consciousness going or whatever, where you can remember like where I was at a different point in my life to then bring back perspective as well. Like, some things like I would have forgotten something in the past or whatever. And you'd be like, well, look at where you are now, X, Y, Z. And you were doing this before and now you're doing this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like, there's just so many different under your umbrella of amazing, skills that you have to be able to help someone and be there and help change their lives and correct course and all that sort of stuff. There's just like there's a million little like nuggets of just absolute gold that are just intrinsic to your personality and who you are and everything you've done so far. And it's amazing.
Yeah, you just made me realize a point as well. I feel like that zone of genius and that really juicy like place that you get to is where those natural innate gifts come out, because I feel like that is your soul. Like in all of these past lives that we've had, I've probably, you know, been a counselor and been a this and a been a that. And I've slowly developed this intuitive ability to really hold space for people. And now in this life, I'm like professionally coaching people, and I've got a podcast and I'm doing healings and stuff. But I didn't learn all of that in this lifetime. I know 1,000,000% I didn't learn that in this lifetime. But I feel like when I took that time to be like, I'm just so stoked when I can genuinely help a friend, is because that's my soul being like, you're remembering the good stuff. Like keep going down this path, because that is your true path. That is your soul's true path. So yeah. So when you were like, oh, you're so good and good and good at this and that, I'm like, yeah, I think I've spent lifetimes getting really good at that. And that's why I love it in this life, because it's that natural zone of like not comfortability, like familiarity.
Yeah. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so true too. That's so true.
Yeah. And it's not something we have to monetize. Like Esther's the most incredible creative person I've ever met. And you've monetized some forms of your creativity and other forms are just for yourself. But you're chasing that same feeling every time you're being creative in the different forms.
Yeah. Oh my God. Speaking of creativity and chasing a feeling. So I started painting because I've always wanted to paint. And I started maybe like 8 or 9 months ago now. And it has been such a journey. I have learned so much about myself doing it. And I never once, like, I didn't want to monetize this. Like this for me is like a healing process or whatever. But I always like kept going back to this feeling of like, I'm doing this to learn about myself. I'm doing it to find out who I am and to push myself past my own bullshit, my own like negative self-talk and stuff like that. Because like as creatives, it's pretty easy to do something and then absolutely hate it and think everything you do is absolute trash, which is ridiculous. And one of the most important things I learned is that creativity from within can actually literally, it's like your soul can communicate to you with your own work. If you're doing work that's just come purely out of you and is not you're not pulling from any specific, like you're not copying someone's thing just to learn it or whatever. Like if you're literally just putting whatever it is that's inside of you out into whatever tangible form, your soul will communicate with you, whether it's like downloads coming through or you look at it afterwards and it actually resonates and says something to you. And I kind of kept going with this feeling of just, I really want my art to like teach me about myself. And like yesterday, during all of this crazy stuff that was happening, I was painting this like big picture. And I've been going through this like big lesson of unboxing myself lately and just being okay with not being like everyone else instead of trying to be like everyone else and beat myself up for being different. Really just being like, hang on a second, I don't actually like the way the world is. You know, it's a beautiful place, but I don't like how it's structured and I don't want to fit into that. It's not my jam. And then just sort of really letting myself shine and letting myself really just be the full magnitude of who I am. And that's been terrifying for me because I know how big I am and I scare myself sometimes. So it's like unboxing for me has been a really big journey. And I painted this painting and I was just letting each stroke come out without, I was like, I'm just going to free paint. I'm going to let my soul talk to me. I'm not going to plan it. I'm not going to do anything. Like, here are the colors. I'm just going to put whatever down on the canvas that comes out. And I looked back at it and I was just sort of staring at it. And then the words came to my mind. Wait, what is it? It's behind me. It says giving
like,
up.
As seen behind us.
Giving up on fitting in. And then when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, what I had painted is a bunch of various boxes with circles inside the boxes. And one circle right in the middle is not inside a box. It's on its own. And down the bottom saying giving up and fitting in. And then I just looked at it and I nearly cried. And I literally dead ass stared at it for an hour. I finished that interview last night and then just stared at this painting for an hour, processing all these different emotions. And I was like, holy mother of God, like that, what a cool experience to have. And now it's like my favorite painting I've ever done because I'm like, it means so much to me. And I spoke to myself in that and I was like, holy shit. And so even that's not even like that's not a big thing I was manifesting to make money from, but like being able to do what I just did is a thing that I've been manifesting because I know that's going to help me along my journey in all kinds of different ways to be able to learn about myself. So I just kept going with that feeling. And then next, here we are.
Yeah. It's all just about chasing that feeling. Maybe that's the name of the podcast.
Oh my God.
Or this episode. Good one. Chase that feeling. but yeah, like I said, it doesn't have to be your job, guys. Like it just happens so that I had a feeling and I've wanted to monetize it. Some people are very like, I'm a very purpose driven person. So it's incredibly important for me. So how the money that I'm receiving is in alignment with things that I love doing and, and filling up my cup. I'm not sacrificing myself for the sake of monetary value. So for my particular journey, I've monetized that feeling. But in Esther's experience, she's like, oh, I just want to feel like I'm checking in with myself or whatever that feeling was. So yeah.
I've
And
monetized it as well. Like
oh yeah,
with
yeah.
with the so I used to be a wedding photographer, and then like loved that, was so passionate about it, but then I was like, and I was, upon reflection, I was really bringing out goodness in people while doing that, and always making them feel better about themselves. So I really enjoyed that part of it. But then as soon as I was like, no, the business is killing me, I had to get the hell out of it, shut it down. And then, have been working in marketing, and now I'm like, oh, marketing in this specific form is not in alignment with my current purpose. So I'm going to like step away with that. And I gave my boss sort of like, she was like, she's the best. I fucking love her so much. She is an incredible person. She said to me, she was like, I know I'm not going to have you forever. So she's like, can you just give me a million years heads up when you have a foot out the door? And I was like, yes, okay. And so then I was like, hey, babe, I've realized I don't want to be doing this anymore. And she was like, oh my God. But she was so supportive, and she was like, okay, no worries. Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I think like Reiki or something. So then I like went and got my Reiki master certificate, and she was like, all right, well, you can't like just do Reiki. You could do like maybe hypnotherapy as well. Have you thought about like kinesiology, life coaching? Like what other things can you like learn? She's like, I'm not going to have you like leave this job and then not be able to pay your rent. And I was just like, oh my God, you are actually the most amazing person in the entire world. Thank you. So then she put me onto her intuitive like business coach. And this chick did like a reading on me and all this stuff. And she was like, I'm feeling like intuitive marketing for you. Because she's like, you've got the marketing skills, but do it for intuitive healers. And I was like, oh my God. It's like I said to the universe, like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I want to be doing something that's in alignment with me and my path and everything. And I just kept chasing that feeling of like, I want to be really happy in my everyday. And I want to be working for myself again because it gives me more freedom to do things like this with the podcast with Zoe and everything. And I want to be learning more in that like healing space. And like, I love, same with Zoe, like I love helping people. I'm really good at just identifying what someone needs and helping them along their path and everything. And I get so much joy from that. And if a friend's ever like, oh, I'm sorry, I asked you for advice on this thing, like, sorry to bother you. I'm like, it's literally such a treat because I have friends in my life who actually action the advice. It's not like they're not just asking constantly and then doing nothing with it. So it feels really, really nice. And as soon as I kind of like started taking those steps towards, what felt right, next thing you know, like I put up a website because this whole TikTok thing happened. I was like, oh, I've got to like funnel that audience somewhere. I don't want to like miss out on this momentum. How incredible. So in the space of like 12 hours, erected a website and put my offerings on there. And then that's also been the like where like people can contact me and everything. And then I've got this other news person who's contacted me from LA being like, hey, can we do an article on your TikTok video and everything like that. So it's like I was able to just follow that feeling of I'm not in alignment by working just in marketing. Like what is more in alignment for me then? And I'll keep my, my ears and heart open. And then, Belle put me onto this chick. And then next thing that chick was like, how about intuitive marketing? And I was like, oh my God, that's actually perfect. That's like well within what I can do. I can fully just give people marketing advice and channel what's right specifically for their business and where they want to go and everything. And I can fully like see myself doing that while also going on this other journey of like, podcasting with you, and I want to write a book, and I just want to do all these things that can create this like massive ripple of like change and goodness in the world. And following that feeling has brought me to this place of just like, it's all happening. What the fuck is going on? The world is so cool.
I know, because it's like, that is just like, we're going to do an episode of manifestation. It's just like probably going to be a 50-parter. But that you just explained what manifestation is. You're co-creating with the universe. Like follow the feeling and then step back and let the universe present you with the opportunities. And sometimes you're going to go out there and get them. But I just love that example because it's like, if you're listening right now, someone at your desk and you really don't like your job, it doesn't mean you have like, some people do like a full 180 and go in a completely different direction. But like in Esther's particular example, she's just, all of the experience that she has is compounding to get her to keep following that feeling and to stay in that alignment. She's like, I don't like marketing in general, but intuitive marketing, the things that I do like, using my powers for good, I want to do that. So if you're sitting here listening like, oh God, like I couldn't do that, it's like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, maybe your little pivot or your little like bliss step is like way closer than you think. And it's just like still in that arena that you're in that feels comfortable right now. Cause like it's not about stretching yourself too far and freaking yourself out and dysregulating your nervous system. But, you know, she's just been given these comfortable steps, not comfortable as well, like tough conversations with your boss and putting yourself out there and everything. But yeah, it's just like a good example of how sometimes it's a full 180, like, fuck it, I'm like going in a total different direction. But other times it's like everything you've done in your life still matters. Like it's still, you know, it's compounding together. And like I've done my uni and stuff like that, but I've learned so many skills about that. Like I do, you know, all of my Oasis State stuff, which is like, you know, professional coaching and healing sessions and stuff. But when I did my exercise science degree and my marine biology degree, I was obsessed with the fact that basically I was just learning that the body has all of these systems and functions. And then I learned about marine biology and I was like, oh, nature, ecosystems, it's just exactly like the human system. And I was like on this like wild spiritual journey, and I wasn't even spiritual yet, but like this wild spiritual journey about like we're all so connected, like, but I'm just learning
Yeah.
it in like really dry, like this muscle attaches to this to do
Yeah.
that. And then I'm learning like, you know, top down and bottom up feeding in ecosystems for wetlands and stuff. And I was like, it's all the same thing. And I've literally brought that understanding from my degrees into like the personal coaching that I do, because I'm like, it's all just like this flow, this system, we're all interconnected. So yeah, like if you guys are sitting here like, I actually already know what my little like feeling is, but it's too scary. I'm like, everything you've done in your life up until now is of use to bring you to the next step and the next step. It's not that you just give up a 20-year career or a uni degree or something like that. It compounds and helps you when
Yes.
you make that decision to follow that feeling. All of your experience and all of life is like, oh yeah, cool, we're going to support you. Like,
Hell yeah.
yeah.
It's like recognizing your natural gifts and talents that have been there the entire time.
Yeah.
And using them. So I was talking to one of my friends the other day about this, pretty much this exact thing. And she was like, I'm, you know, getting made redundant at my job. And I'm like, I don't want to do that kind of thing anymore. But she was like, you know, I've been a photographer for a long time. So like, I want to do it differently. I could be a photographer, but like how? I really want to do it in a way that works for me. I can kind of hear in her that she really like, she was just trying to make that fit because that's what she knew. But it's like I could hear that her soul was like,
Yeah.
And then, you know, she was like, and I can do these things and I've done this. So like, how can I incorporate all the, you know, the professions I've had and use them and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and I just was like, okay, let's draw a table in front of us right now. I was like, we're going to put everything you've ever done so far professionally on the table. And now we're just going to wipe it to the side. And it's still going to sit there. All of your professional skills are going to be there because they will help you in whatever it is that you do next. Absolutely. But I was like, now that the table's a clean slate, all I want you to put onto the table are your natural gifts and talents. Like, what are the things, even if it's just when you're talking to a friend, like what comes up, like what's the feeling that you love? Like, what is it that you really, really like to do? And she was like, I really like to like observe people and then help them based on observation. She was like, I can help them properly if I'm able to actually observe how they handle certain situations. And I was like, bro, that's amazing. Like, can you walk towards that? She was like, yeah, I guess I can. And then the conversation kept going. But the point of this is that we were talking about sort of really looking inward and being like, what makes me feel good in everyday life, just the way that I exist without having, you know, done it for money maybe, or without having it being your absolute professional thing that you're good at. Like, what is the intuitive thing that you're good at? And it could be multiple things. It's probably heaps of things. And like, what are those things? And if you find something in those talents and gifts that you really love, there's probably something you can create out of it if you need to turn it into your like life's work or your passion or your job or whatever it is that you want to do with it. Maybe it's a hobby that you want to actually focus on. Like whichever way you go, there are so many things that you're good at that are just lying like just beneath the surface.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, I really love you mentioning that, because it's like detaching from the result, just follow that feeling, just embody that feeling, just enjoy that feeling. And then the results like blow you away anyway, but it's not about the results. So, and then I was thinking like another little life hack we can share about this chasing this feeling is chase multiple feelings. Unlock the next level. Like, you don't have to just be like, oh, this feeling of success or this feeling of joy. Like, you are living a completely, sorry, I'm getting really distracted because we never record in the afternoon, and we've done it today, and now I know that the sun flickers in, and it's just like the trees keep moving, and then I keep like turning into this like white like angel
You
being.
look an angel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm an angel.
You are.
So yeah, I'm trying to like find a little spot where I can concentrate. But yeah, so you are ticking that box of living a whole life, like a whole fulfilling life, if you were following multiple feelings. Like, I love the feeling of joy and freedom. So I go surf, and I love the feeling of, in Esther's example of being creative, like I get to check in with herself. For me, that's on the yoga mat. I love going to the class and seeing like where I'm resisting or how I'm feeling, how strong I am, and getting all like these amazing downloads and stuff. And then in my job, it's like I love being of service to people. I love sharing how I feel, everyone, understanding how we can all interact with life and the world better. And I like, there's three amazing feelings that I'm following. So it's like when you're and plus more, but when you're following so many feelings, it means throughout your day to day, you are embodying those higher frequencies. Because when you wake up in the morning, you're embodying, fulfillment, and then you go to work and you embody success and blah, blah, blah. And then you come home and you embody like relaxation, which is whatever you do. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
You don't just have to focus on one feeling. What are all the feelings that you love? Write them all down. They're all like, I love feeling love and joy and belonging and, this and that. And then when you start creating, like understanding the avenues that help you feel that, whether it's monetized like a job or something, or just a practice, or the people you like being around. I like a feeling of belonging. I've found that in this community or in that community. Like, you can spend your entire day at these higher vibrations and these frequencies because you're following those feelings. Like, that's the life hack, is like follow all of the feelings. And it doesn't, surfing means one thing to me and yoga gets another thing out of it, and then the podcast gets one thing, but it's like I'm not just doing one thing every day that makes myself feel good and then just going back to the mundane. Like, well, I don't even know what life is about,
Yeah. You just made me think everyone could do a little exercise. So if you're listening to this episode, do an exercise for the next like 2 weeks. If you meet someone, if you go somewhere and you meet someone and they say like, oh, what do you do? Don't answer with your job. If you can, just be like, oh, well, for fun, I do this. If and my hobbies are like this, and I do this, and then you can be like, and for work, I do this. But try and put your job last if you can. Even if there's only one other thing that you do, try and switch that priority in your brain, that your job isn't specifically, unless it's like you're following your absolute life's purpose and your job is literally everything you've ever wanted, then amazing, say that. But if you're in a place where your job is like, it's fine, fine to have that job, but you also have this so much fulfillment and all these other things, just as a little exercise to remember to follow those feelings and recognize what you have in your life as well, like staying higher on that vibration by appreciating what you have and recognizing how cool it is that you do those things. Mention them first and start a conversation about yourself, because your soul will be so happy. Your soul will be like, oh my God, she's talking about the things that make me really happy.
Yes. And like, that's actually, I've already acknowledged how awesome those conversations are, because I've noticed that when you go traveling, like overseas or somewhere different, is people aren't just like, what do you do for work? Everyone's like, you'll just be at a random cafe, in Sri Lanka or something, and people are like, how are you? And you're like, I'm really good. And they might never know your name, never know where you live, what you do, but the conversation just become a bit more conscious because we're all just like in this different part of the world. I don't know. There's just like something I've noticed, but I really wholeheartedly agree with that, because I love those conversations when I'm traveling, but I myself want to do that exercise and make sure I'm bringing that into my day-to-day conversations when I'm meeting somewhere new. Like, how you been? How's life treating you? How's your heart? How's your soul? How are you feeling? How's your alignment? So I think that's a really beautiful suggestion and exercise, and let's do it.
Yeah, it's like one of the things that's absolutely helped me. So, like what you were saying before about all the things you can do throughout the day and get fulfillment in different areas throughout all those different things. So for me, I'll, do a bit of work outside and, lay in the sun and then a bit of shade or whatever, working my day job, and then maybe I'll go on like a walk with a friend, or maybe I'll record an episode of the podcast with Zoe on my lunch break, and I'll start my morning with a bit of reading, and then maybe, I'm not saying I do literally all of this all in one day, but like throughout the week, and maybe I'll do some painting or whatever, and talk to friends and help them out with things. And work on, you know, the progression of my life and all that sort of stuff. And I just feel so much joy in all those different things. And I feel even more joy, and I can feel my vibration raising even higher into alignment with the things that I want in my life when I acknowledge those things as much as possible. And whenever I'm talking to friends about the things that I love, whenever I'm just appreciating them myself and being like, wow, I'm so lucky, I'm so grateful. And yeah, like if I go to a party or if I am around people and they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I literally like, I'm like, oh, I work in marketing, but I'm actually like, I do a podcast with my friend. I'm like, la, 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 la. Like, that's what I care about telling them about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And it sparks better conversations too.
Exactly. Because you get to know someone better.
Yeah.
I also realized as well that, like I was saying, like when you're chasing these multiple feelings throughout the day and then you turn around and realize you've manifested this incredible life because your day to day is so amazing. I was just reflecting. I was like, why does it, obviously it feels incredible because you're embodying those high vibrations of joy, success, etc. But it's also so fulfilling when you're chasing those multiple feelings because it actually simultaneously becomes a bullshit radar for obligation in your life, because you start deconditioning from feeling so fucking obligated. Like I'm really in this season of like, I don't want to do anything I feel obligated to do. I just want to do what I want to do.
Absolutely.
And like, you know, we've manifested like a pretty good life, but there's just, you know, little things here and there. But I feel like when you are chasing that feeling, it helps you have this bullshit radar for like, oh, I don't even really want to go and hang out with those people. I don't want to do this training for work. Wait, do I even like my job? Like it helps you, because we don't, like, guys, you don't have to do anything you're obligated to do. Obviously, like to a degree, like if you have to go to the doctor because you're sick, go to the doctor because you're sick, sort of thing. But like we give obligation through societal conditioning way too much power.
Absolutely.
And when you're chasing that feeling, you will realize how much you've just put on your plate out of obligation or out of an old version of yourself. And you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to put my time and energy there. Or it might be like, I don't want to play hockey anymore. I've been playing hockey for like 5 years. I just want to try piano now. Like,
you're so right.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing all these things that make you feel so much joy, you turn around and look at the thing you're obliged to do, and it's just like the worst thing on the planet. You're like, I would rather kick myself in the face. I don't want to do it.
I'm pretty bad at having a tantrum about that, but it's because I will fully throw my toys out the cot about that, but it's because I'm getting so sensitive to it. Like, I'm very aware of it. Like, but it's because I'm so sensitive to just anything I don't want to do, because I've for years and years manifested this life where like I've manifested this life where I feel free and I've got so much freedom in my life, and this is just the beginning, guys, but it's like this funny little like thing where I'm like, as soon as there's an obligation, like I am acting like someone has just killed my firstborn child. Like it's so I'm like, but it's so try not to be me. Try and have a little bit more grace than me, because I can definitely throw my toys out the cot when I'm not feeling like it. Like
I had the same feelings about stuff. Like whenever I had to shoot weddings when I was well past my due date and I was ready to leave and, you know, end the business and everything, but I still had a few weddings to go. And I was also going through really hectic stuff in my life. And anytime I had to go to a wedding, I was just like, it felt like there was a baby version of me inside my stomach having an absolute fit. Like it felt like I was kicking the inside of my own stomach just to have to go do the thing.
Yeah.
So I completely get that feeling.
So yeah, just be mindful of that like obligation radar coming out, and just be super kind to yourself. But that's where things will change as well, because you're following that feeling, but that might also simultaneously trigger you letting go of other things that are on your plate, taking up your time and energy, and you're like, oh, but they don't help me achieve this feeling of joy or belonging or success or whatever the things you're chasing. So and just be so kind to yourself and be patient. Like obviously, you know, like Esther and I have our muggle jobs and we just want to be at Hogwarts every single day, but
literally
but yeah, so but we, you know, we just have to be patient and take those little, like pick up those little breadcrumbs, and you know, slowly over time, and enough, you know, clients or opportunities or ideas will come through where we can just totally be in that state of like, sweet, on the job front, career front, purpose front, we are only doing the things we want to do.
Hell yeah.
So it's like, you don't just go and quit your job right now and fully stress yourself out, but just observe that feeling of obligation and just be like, okay, cool, I'm going to celebrate this, and be like, how do I wind this back so much so that it does not exist in my life at all ever?
I love that. Listeners, repeat after me. I'm only going to do things that I want to do, and I don't want to do anything I don't want to do.
Absolutely. And people might be listening to this having like a full like visceral response in their body, like, oh no, what do you mean? What do you mean? But like you're just too in the matrix, guys. Like you're too conditioned and and I'm not saying this to like make yourself feel bad, again, through a lens of self-compassion, but it is actually a completely viable reality to just do what Esther said, like only do the things you want to do and don't do the things you don't want to do. We are consciously and proactively manifesting that life for ourselves, and it is possible. So if you're sitting there like, what do you mean? Like, oh, you guys are being like too greedy about it, etc. No, like you've just made that decision that you're not going to chase that feeling. So switch it up.
And like joy is on a spectrum, you know what I mean? So it's like, not to say that, you know, maybe you hate your job right now and you're like, oh, well, my dream job would be X, Y, Z, and that seems like impossible or whatever. Like for one, it's probably not impossible if you could probably make it happen. But two, like you don't need your day job to be the most absolute like joyful experience of your entire life if you have that feeling in other areas. Your day job can still be something that you're happy doing. Like you want to do it. It doesn't, you know, does that make sense? Like you don't need.
Yeah. And because I think when you're in those moments of like, oh my God, my job sucks, like just sit back and acknowledge and express gratitude for the things that it does provide you. Like all of my bills are paid. And like in Esther and I's case, we work remotely. Like we have a lot of time freedom. Like we still work, but I can go to yoga in the morning, then come home, then get on the laptop and work. So yeah, it's just about like, it's okay if it feels like an obligation right now, but soften that triggering feeling of obligation with expressing gratitude and being like, yeah, but like it puts a roof over my head and I'm getting experience, or I'm with my friends when I'm at work or something.
And then you can go from that feeling and be like, all right, maybe I do change jobs or whatever if I really don't like my job. If I've looked for the things to be grateful for and I still feel this way, you're like, okay, cool. It's probably time to go. And then you can look for another job that's more in alignment with, you know, who you are. And maybe it's not the 10 steps down the line, but maybe the next step is exactly where you need to go right now. And maybe that one little step into a different job or whatever it is that you want to change up in your life will lead you to, you know, more happiness and more joy, and you can find things in your hobbies or whatever it is that you want to do that brings out that real fucking spark inside you.
Yeah. And like, guys, we get it. Like we're moving out of the grind and into doing our own thing. And a lot of the things we put our time and energy into, like this podcast, like they don't financially support us. And I think the triggering thing is when you have to work that job that feels like an obligation and you've decided it's out of alignment, but it takes the energy out of you, and then you feel like you can't show up for the podcast or your passion project or your social media account or whatever the thing is you're trying to grow in the right direction, or a hobby like painting or something. And it's just like that's where I throw my toys out the cot, because I'm like, I'm grateful for this job. It gives me freedom. It's supporting me while I set myself up. But then when I feel too drained to do things, which it's been a slow process of learning how to master my energy and manage my energy. And now it's just a non-negotiable. Like I can still jump on and do this podcast with Esther all the time and have more than enough energy. So I just wanted to bring some awareness to like, it's not an overnight thing when you're moving out of like that obligation to what you're doing. And Esther and I are right in it, guys. We are right there juggling everything. Like Esther's got a kid, like we've both got partners, we need downtime, we need everything. And you just need to keep putting as much energy as you can manage without sacrificing like balance and, you know, your mental health or anything into the paths and that feeling that you want, while balancing it with the obligation that you have right now. And it is totally a dance and an act, but we're here right beside you. And hopefully we can inspire and encourage you to take that step. Because if you're sitting there like, oh no, but I'm always so tired after work, I'm like, mate, me too. I'm so tired, but I know if I don't keep putting love and intention and energy into this feeling that we're following and these projects that we're so passionate about, no one's coming to save me. Like again, like that's one of the other episodes we had, but like you just really have to find that balance, be compassionate with yourself, but don't make excuses. Like I know you're going to be tired sometimes and stuff like that, and don't push from a toxic place, but no one is coming to save you. You have to show up and do that podcast, or, you know, climb a tree if you really like trees, or do that painting to help yourself feel better. And the longer you can spend in that feeling that you're chasing or embodying, the more energy you'll get, actually. So it's like this funny thing, like you feel really burnt out, but the more I've just been like, fuck it, and like leaned into that initial exhaustion and learning how to balance my time and my energy and my week and my schedule and everything, this stuff fills me up. Like I will get off this podcast and I feel like I have had 50 coffees, and it'll give me the energy to go back to the job that I'm grateful for because it's paying the bills and stuff now. But if you just sit in, say, the job or the relationship or the situation that you're in that is draining you and keep making excuses, you'll never find the energy. Like you kind of have to push through that little like wall, that veil first. And then when you're doing the things that give you that feeling of passion, excitement, joy, that gives you the physical energy and the spiritual energy to keep going.
Yeah. And I feel compelled to say as well, like, if you're feeling the weight of the world and you're feeling a bit squashed down by, dead ends and stuff like that, keep going.
Yeah, just
like I
keep
know
going.
it can feel like the heaviest thing to be like, oh, I don't like where I am. It's not right. I'm out of alignment. How do I get into alignment? And it's just like, it's almost like a compass just spinning and you're like, oh my God, when will it stop? I don't know where to go. I don't know how to exit this. I don't know where the door is. Where's my path? All that sort of stuff. Just know that you can get there and just do one thing at a time. Stop looking at the big picture, break it down, tiny little incremental steps, tiny steps. Like what's just like one thing you can do in the day, and also just keep going. Yeah. You got this.
Have you heard that analogy about like you get in the car and it's nighttime and you're going to the destination and you type in like 123 Awesome Street into your GPS and then you press go and you like know where your destination is. So for, Esther and I, it's like only doing what we love and helping people, changing the world with this podcast, etc. That's our destination. But the analogy is we're in the car and it's dark and we can only see as far as the headlights are showing us. So we can only take that one step. We can only see that far ahead, even though the GPS is set for 500 Ks away when we get to 123 Awesome Street. I can't see the entire 500 kilometer road of where we're going. All I can see is the headlights in front of me. So that's all I can focus on. It's just like driving a car at night. Like you moving to where you want to go is driving a car at night. Just look where the headlights are showing you and take the step, take the action, lean into that feeling.
That is such a perfect analogy. That's amazing. That's like literally what I've been doing. My entire life has been exactly that analogy lately. That's perfect.
Yeah. I don't know whose it is. Like I've heard it over the years in multiple ways, but I really feel like that helps me kind of conceptualize. Like I don't know where I'm. Like Esther said, if the compass is spinning like crazy, it's like because you're not going to know where you're going. You just have to find that one. Like that's why we're saying follow that feeling. You don't need to have actionable steps. You just need to follow the feeling. That's your compass. Yeah. That's your headlights.
Yes. That's it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Anyway, you're all welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like
that was amazing.
Yeah. If our mics weren't like hitched up right now, I'd drop it. I'd fully drop the mic. But yeah, I feel like we've blown everyone's minds enough. I'm saying this like not from an egotistical place, guys. Don't worry. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot to digest there. So I feel like that's probably a good note to finish. And I hope you're feeling as inspired as me.
Yeah.
I'm going to run around and do all my passion projects now. And in my particular journey, like I said, they're going to lead to a way that they're financially supporting me and creating time, freedom and stuff. But guys, if it's just like, I really want to try that tango class, like after work, go and do it. Yeah. I hope you're feeling as jazzed as I am right now.
Yeah, I'm going to manifest after this. I'm going to go write down some things. I'm feeling really compelled to manifest.
Which is good juju.
It is good juju. We have got the energy that is in this episode is very forward moving and magical. So I feel like if you're listening to this energy is for you as well. And take that step or just follow that feeling, get journaling, write your manifestations down, make some magic. You got this.
Yeah. Mwah. Mwah. We love you so much and we'll see you on the next ep.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Vision and Alchemy. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love you to share it with a friend. Your support means everything to us. If you'd like to subscribe to our journey, follow us at Vision and Alchemy on socials. And we'll see you next time.